Hey, what is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to be looking at my Criterion collection. I've been going through my whole collection. You guys have been enjoying these videos a lot. I've been doing my my Blu-ray collection I did, my 4K collection I did, and my Arrow Video and Scream Factory collection I did, right? So now all we have left is Criterion collection and then my Steelbook collection. I'm really excited for my Steelbook one. I have a lot of those. Criterion I have a good amount. I don't have a bunch, but I would say I have maybe about like 20 or 25, maybe 30 titles. I spent all day building that shelf. I don't know if you guys can see that. I put all my Blu-rays there. I got all my Steelbooks behind me and Criterions. And I have a space over here for my 4Ks. But yeah, I was going to put out a video for a new episode of Dope Sick. Episode 4 came out today. But then I realized, the show may not really need a recap. So expect maybe another video later on the Chucky. Episode 2 comes out tonight. But let's take a look at my Criterion collection. I'm going through alphabetical order like always, right? So start with the numbers and let's get into it. So we have one numbered title, but it's a good one. We got 12 Angry Men. You know I had to get this on Criterion. This movie was first shown to me, I think in like 7th grade when I read the book for class. They casted me as, I think, juror number 7. I think it was like the nerdy guy, right? Which makes sense at the time. And, I mean, the book I enjoyed. I don't really remember the book, but the movie I loved. I don't remember what my perception was in 7th grade watching it, but I have seen it a couple of times since then. And I always reach that 5 out of 5 for me. I do think it's a perfect movie. Sidney Lumet, is that how you say his name? Is the director. He's also director of like Network, right, which is another great movie. I think he's done another one that's really great that I can't think of right now. But 12 Angry Men, I mean, the cast is great. I mean, the main character, I mean, I'm sure you've seen it by now. It's such a classic. Just that main character and how he's able to just flip everyone, to go on his side by the end. And just a great vibe and just like, it's so memorable when you think about the fan. The one character's a big Yankee fan. They open up the window, it's just sweaty environment, enclosed. All taking place in one environment, in the same room. So, I mean, that's probably known as the best one-room movie, I would say. I mean, the ones that I've seen, I'd say 12 Angry Men is the best. Sidney Lumet's the best movie, in my opinion, as well. It's just a perfect movie. I'm sure you've all seen it by now. It gets praised enough. It's up there. I would say maybe it's one of the definitely top 20 movies of all time, maybe. So, yeah, 12 Angry Men. Let's go into the next letter. Okay, so surprisingly enough, I don't have any A's, which is really disappointing for me. I need to get on that. But we do have a lot of B's. So let me start by showing you guys this. I have the Bruce Lee, his greatest hits collection, right? I watched all of these, I think. Yeah, this year, maybe earlier in the year. And I did this Bruce Lee post on Instagram, really cool. I was never a big Bruce Lee guy growing up. I mean, I think he just missed my era. He was all big like in the 70s, 80s. Huge in the 90s. After he died, he became so much more bigger. Became like the grandmaster of Kung Fu. People like Bob Marley and everyone else started quoting him. And that's when he started, going on shirts. People were praising him all over the place. And it just sucks that if you guys know, like I've read up on some of his history after reading these movies. Like after he died is when he became bigger, And it sucks that Enter the Dragon, his biggest movie, came out. And he died, I think, literally days before the premiere or after the premiere, somewhere there. So he never really got to see the success of that movie and just see his legacy grow. And I think that's the most tragic element of his story is that he died right before, he really got big. And his whole career, he's pushing for, so much time in Hollywood and movies in general. Asians were looked down upon, the comedic aspects of the movie all the time. If you've seen older movies, you've seen how they portray Asians, right? So Bruce Lee, I mean, he was an advocate for never being like that. He would never really take on a role that would stereotype him like that. And he was just probably, the biggest Asian person to push forward and, become something different than what movies were portraying the community as, And so, he did all his own stunts, all that. And so these movies are great. Let's take a look at this collection. Real quick, it opens up like this, right? Opens up. You got The Big Boss, which was like his first, let me show you guys like this. Big Boss over here, which was like his first big movie in Hollywood, I think. Then you have Fist of Fury. Everyone knows that one. The Way of the Dragon with Chuck Norris. Enter the Dragon, which was his biggest one. And at the end, it's kind of like this weird big collection. I can show you guys like this. You have a little booklet on him, and then Game of Death, which was his last movie, and then some of the behind the scenes, special feature stuff, right? So The Big Boss is really good. I mean, that was his first one. I actually really enjoyed that more than I thought. Highly recommend it. Fist of Fury is also great. Production design is insane. The Way of the Dragon is maybe my favorite out of all these, just because he fights Chuck Norris in a Roman Coliseum. So sick. It's also directed by Bruce Lee. Has a good twist at the end. So I really enjoyed that one. Enter the Dragon, such a classic. I did maybe expect a little bit more, but I need to watch it again because I really did love it. The ending fight scene with the mirrors is iconic and so well done. And then Game of Death, I actually didn't really enjoy. It's the last one here, only because it was released, I think, like 8 or 10 years after his death. They only really had 1 or 2 scenes with Bruce Lee, but it's with his iconic yellow jumpsuit. He fights Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. But for the whole movie, he's either not in it or they use a different actor who's supposed to look like Bruce Lee. And it's like the character is like actual Bruce Lee. So it kind of comes off a little weird, and they use actual funeral footage of Bruce Lee in the movie, which also came off kind of like tacky. But the scene at the end with Bruce Lee when he fights Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is iconic, is great. But I think just the movie overall definitely isn't as good as these others. So yeah, Bruce Lee. I mean, I really wish I was introduced to him more as a kid. I just wasn't. But yeah, I mean, just a great role model, so influential. And this collection really cemented for me that he is one of the greatest of all time in anything, just celebrity-wise or whatever. I really look up to him now. He's a great guy. So let's keep going with the Bs. So next B is a new release that came out a couple months ago, Bringing Up Baby, a 1930s comedy movie starring Katharine Hepburn, Cary Grant. I watched this one recently, I think maybe last month. I didn't really enjoy it that much. It's really like a comedy-focused movie. Cary Grant I like. Katharine Hepburn, I think, is my first movie I watched her in. Supposedly this was her first comedic role. I think she did good. She was a very good actress. But the movie's just very like fast-paced, and it's just not that interesting. They're just chasing this tiger the whole movie. The comedy stuff doesn't work for me, at least now. 1930s, so long ago. I'm sure the comedy's so much different now than then. Some people still enjoy it, but like when Cary Grant like just falls and that's supposed to be like, the big punchline. It's just I couldn't get into it. So it just dragged for me, and it's a movie that I don't think I really like that much, but it's not terrible, and there's definitely an audience out there for it. Next up, I got The Breakfast Club. I had to get this one too. Such a classic. I mean, I haven't watched it in a while. I've seen it so many times. Whenever it's on TV, I always throw it on, right? I pretty much remember everything that happens. Great characters. It's The Breakfast Club. Everyone knows it. Everyone loves it, I would say. Great atmosphere. I think it ages pretty well, and as you can see with these modern TV shows, a lot of them still take inspiration from this movie, which is a testament to what kind of influence this movie had on everything, especially teenager movies. So yeah, I'm happy to have it in my collection. I have to watch this one day on the Criterion to see how it looks, but I haven't. It's a 4K digital restoration too. But yeah, we don't need to go too much into Breakfast Club. Everyone's seen it. Everyone loves it, right? So next up, I have the Before Trilogy collection. This is one of my favorite, not only trilogies, even though, hear this out, I haven't watched Before Midnight yet. And you want to know why? Well, one, because you know why though? It's because I've loved the first one so much. I've actually seen the first one like 2 or 3 times just because it's such a great vibe. And I was so shocked by the movie, so engaged, so immersed. One of the most beautiful, if not the most beautiful movie I've ever seen. Then I watched Before Sunset, which maybe I like a little bit less than Sunrise, but it's not that far off. I've seen Sunset probably twice now, and I love the ending of Sunset. Let me show you the cover Before Sunrise. I love the ending of Sunset so much. It ends on such a happy note. And I know that Before Midnight, everyone's like, it's the most realistic depiction, And I kind of know like maybe how it's going to go. And it's like, I'm just not ready to see like the downfall of these characters yet. Like, I'm just not. But I do have to get to, because I know Midnight is great. I know some people say it's their favorite of the trilogy, and I'm sure I'm gonna love it. I just need to like carve out a piece of time to actually sit down and watch it, because I don't want to be distracted in this movie. I'm turning up all the lights, and I know I'm gonna feel really immersed, like I have with Before Sunrise and Before Sunset. And I know once I see Before Midnight, it will probably top, my opinion, the greatest trilogy of all time. If Before Midnight is as good as Before Sunrise and Sunset, it will probably be my favorite trilogy of all time. I can't think of consistent 3 movies that have all been either 5 out of 5s or close at 5 out of 5s. Because Sunrise, I'd put at 5 out of 5. Sunset's very close. Maybe I'd round it to a 4.5 star movie. But with time, it'd probably go up to a 5. So Before Midnight is on that caliber. I can't think of another trilogy that's as good, So next up, we got Barry Lyndon, Stanley Kubrick movie. Really love this movie. I thought it was great. Super long, but super... It's like watching a painting. It really is. It's like this immersive, engaging, time-traveling like piece of art. That's the kind of like it felt like I was in there. Like the way he depicts it and the production design, just the atmosphere of the movie. It just felt like it was the perfect time period movie for me. I I just think it's super long, and there's just not, the story is good, but there's just not like enough for me personally. That's why I don't rate like a 5 out of 5 like how some other people rate it. But Barry Lyndon, I love it. I just think if I had to rate Kubrick movies, it'd probably fall in the middle, just because Kubrick has so many great movies that I love a little bit more, like The Shining or Eyes Wide Shut, Full Metal Jacket, A Clockwork Orange. You know, those are already 2001: A Space Odyssey. You know, I would put all those above Barry Lyndon, but Barry Lyndon would probably go next after those. And hopefully one day I can watch it again, maybe appreciate it more. But yeah, it's a great movie. And then let's go to our last B. This one I haven't seen yet. Badlands by Terrence Malick stars Sissy Spacek, and is that Martin Sheen? Pretty sure it's Martin Sheen. Yeah, it is. So I haven't watched Badlands yet. It's on my watch list for a long time now, but it's directed by Terrence Malick, and I'm just not sure how I feel about Terrence Malick yet, only because I've only seen Tree of Life, right? But if you guys remember my last video, I watched a lot of movies at a time where I was still in the beginning of watching movies, so I wasn't really in the whole like cinematography stuff. Like, I didn't care about that. I was mostly like a story guy. You know, I just wanted to be blown away by a movie by its story, not really about how it looked. So because Tree of Life doesn't really have a story, it's sort of like this beautifully portrayed movie with great cinematography, with really great themes that are showcased with these characters and like little increments of story scenes, right? So I mean, when I watched Tree of Life, I hated it because I was so bored and I just didn't understand it. If I watched it now, I honestly can't tell you if I would love it or if I would hate it again. I'm just not sure. But just because that my feelings of that movie are still lingering in my mind, I haven't rushed to go see Badlands yet. Even though I think this is one of his first movies. So we'll see. I probably would like it. I love Sissy Spacek. I love Martin Sheen. But I just haven't gotten around to watching it yet, so that's all I'll say. Let's go into C. So I only have one C, but you guys can probably guess what the C is. If you think really hard, you know, you probably got it. It's Come and See, the most devastating war movie out there. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. A movie that you only want to watch once in your lifetime, because that's enough. But I kind of do have the itch sometimes to go back and rewatch it, because I do think there's some really beautiful scenes in there. And just to go back and just watch and take it in more and just feel something, right? But Come and See, I remember this was the first Barnes & Noble, like the first Criterion movie I rushed to Barnes & Noble to go and get. When I first started getting to Criterion, I remember this was like the first like new announcement. It's like, oh, Come and See is coming out. And it was topping my watch list if I ordered it in average rating. It has like a 4.6 average rating, I think, or something like that. So I was like, I'm getting Come and See. Like, I'm going to get it right away. And I watched it once. And again, it was at that time where I was like, this wasn't the Tree of Life time for me, to where I was like, only wanted story. But it was in this weird transition period for me where I was like wanting to try and look at cinematography and production design more and get into it more instead of just focusing on the story. So I was like in the middle. So I rated Come and See like a 3.5 star movie. Now looking at it, I'd probably rate it a 5. Just, you know, my perception of movies now is very different. So that's why I need to rewatch it. But I would put it up there as, I mean, it's probably the most realistic depiction of war I've ever seen. But not like my favorite war movie. I mean, if this is your favorite war movie, maybe you have a problem, because it's just like a sick movie to watch. It's like it's sick. It's so sick. It's not sick in a good way. Like, it's disgusting, but also really beautiful at the same time. So I mean, I can see why. But yeah, Come and See. If you haven't seen it yet, and you're into all this Criterion Collection stuff, definitely go and watch Come and See. Definitely. Next up for D. So first up for D, we got Do the Right Thing, directed by Spike Lee. And there's not enough good things I can say about Do the Right Thing. It's by far my favorite Spike Lee movie. The cast is insane. You got Samuel L. Jackson thrown in there in the beginning. You got John Turturro. You got Spike Lee starring in it, and he's an okay actor. I wouldn't say he's a good actor. You got Giancarlo Esposito, and you got plenty more other guys in there. But the thing I like about this movie so much, it's probably the best movie I've seen that shows both sides of the spectrum in terms of that like black versus white sort of conversation, right? That's in the media a lot nowadays. It's always been, right? The movies nowadays, not all of them, but a lot of them are heavily focused on one side. I'm not saying I'm on one side or the other, but movies like Queen and Slim, you see things a certain way. You know, it's told in a way that's sort of going on one side of the spectrum and focusing on that side. Do the Right Thing does a perfect job of balancing both sides in a way, but then by the end getting their message across about what we should do. It's all about doing the right thing, right? But the character of John Turturro and like the Italian side, you got this like Italian restaurant in this black neighborhood. The conversation they had felt like realistic, as I'm a fellow Italian as well, half Italian. So just to see the Italian aspects in this and how like accurate it was in a way from what I've seen with my family and stuff, was just like really, it was just really well done. And then just to see their character transformation throughout the movie and how it ended, and then also seeing like the whole black conversation, the social commentary that was going on as well. It just felt like a really good mix of both. And then by the end, the message that they were getting across, it just kind of resonated with me. And I just really loved it. I also watched it in the summertime, like with my headphones on, so I was like completely immersed. And the whole movie is supposed to take place in the summer, like on the hottest day. So yeah, just a super engaging movie. I love it. Personally, I give it a 5 out of 5. I really do. I think it's a perfect movie. And I always recommend it to people too. So if you haven't seen it yet, please go and watch it. I think it's a perfect movie. Next up, another perfect movie is Dazed Confused. I need to watch this again. And this is cool. It's another Richard Linklater film, right? He directed the Before trilogy as well. Comes out like this. Comes with a little booklet, if you can see it. And then inside, it's nice and colorful. Really cool, looking collection. I always like the Criterions when they put him like this. So it's like a unique little slipcover thing. So Dazed Confused, I'm going to be honest with you. I've only seen it in full once. And when I watched it, I probably watched it under the most perfect circumstances for this movie. I was in high school. Me and my boys, we went to a ski cabin up in the mountains. We weren't in the most sober mindsets, and we look up. Everyone looks up. When you're in that mindset, if you've done it, whatever. What's the best movies to watch while high or whatever, right? Number 1, Dazed Confused. So we're like, all right, put it on. This is before I was big into movies. So we're watching it, and it's like I had one of the best times watching this with my boys, and I rated it a 5 out of 5. I think at the time, maybe I wasn't rating movies. But now, like I've seen on TV a couple of times, but I haven't watched it in full. So I do rate it a perfect rating on my letterbox and stuff. But I do have to watch it again. Probably have a great time. Probably like reminisce on some great memories while watching it. And so definitely want to watch again. But I would say it's a perfect movie. Just a laid back, chill movie. And that's exactly what I want. So let's go into the next letter. Alright, so now for E is one that I haven't seen yet, unfortunately. It's The Elephant Man. This is a new release. And it's directed by David Lynch, who I'm still torn on David Lynch. I've watched the first season of Twin Peaks, and I really enjoyed the vibe. I started Twin Peaks Season 2, but I think I fell off because I was focusing on other TV shows to watch at the time that I wanted to get through. So Twin Peaks is still on a pause for me. I need to go and finish that. And I've seen The Elephant Man, which I don't like. I'm sorry. Not The Elephant Man. I'm sorry. Eraserhead, which I don't like. It's just, I don't know what the hell is going on. He doesn't even know what the hell is going on. I tried to look up what this movie means. He's like, he doesn't even know, or he hasn't said it. And it's super weird, the baby head and the music. And even though that song does stick with you, and that girl singing in the concert on the stage, and I forgot the words, I was like really hypnotizing. Maybe if I watched it now, I would like it. I watched it, I think, last year. It's so crazy how your perception of movies change all the time. I talked about this last video too. But yeah, Elephant Man stars Anthony Hopkins. I heard this is the most like digestible movie for like a regular moviegoer from David Lynch is The Elephant Man. So this would probably end up being my favorite Lynch film, so I need to get on this. It's been on my watch list too. New 4K restoration. I love Hopkins, so definitely need to watch that soon. And then next up, now we're done with E. So now we have F. First up, we got Following, Christopher Nolan's debut film, has a Criterion collection. It's probably like his worst film, but it's also his first, so you can't hate on him. And I think the best way to watch Following is like if you're just trying to get into Nolan, don't go in like chronological order. Don't watch Following first, I think. Maybe you start with Memento and then watch the rest of his filmography, and then at the end come back to Following, because in Following you see, the inklings of Memento here. You have like the inklings of the Prestige and the way he directs. It's not full-on Nolan yet, but you could see where his genius starts to form with this movie. And I think that's what makes it a lot more watchable, a lot more better, is as a Nolan fan watching this, you can appreciate a lot more things than if you're not really, you don't know too much about Nolan yet, and you watch this, maybe it'll come off as boring and, a little bit, it's just boring. So yeah, Following, I like it though. I ended up liking it, so. Next up, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. I talked about this in my last video, I think, about Terry Gilliam. This is obviously a Terry Gilliam movie, stars Johnny Depp and Benicio del Toro. I wish I watched this one high. I just watched it, and I was another one where I just couldn't follow along with it that much, and it just seemed like there wasn't anything really to say, or like I just couldn't really see what it was trying to say. The story is really just them taking drugs and just hallucinating for the whole movie. And I guess I was expecting some sort of coherent storyline or like some sort of plot. But it really is, I think, just them getting high and trying to, are they trying to take money somewhere? They come into money or something like that. I couldn't really get on board with it. I think I gave like a 2.5 stars out of 5. Definitely deserves more. On a filmmaking level, I guess it's really good. But even Brazil, I didn't appreciate that much either. So I guess I'm just not a Terry Gilliam fan. You know why we talked about this? Because I have to still watch 12 Monkeys. And I think someone here told me to watch 12 Monkeys. I have to get on that still. But it's only because Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas and Brazil kind of, threw me off with Terry Gilliam. But I do want to watch Fear and Loathing in again because I do love Johnny Depp. I do love Benicio del Toro. And I'm upset that I don't like that movie because it feels like a movie I would like. So it gets me kind of mad. And then Last F is another new release from Criterion, Fast Times at Richmond High. Saw this once, I think, maybe last year, 2 years ago. Another movie like Dazed and Confused, your typical high school movies from the 80s, I think? Yeah, 82. Great movie, great cast again. It's not as memorable, I think, as some other ones. So maybe the most memorable thing about this movie is Sean Penn and his character, how he plays like the character that's high. But really funny, though, great time. And but it's not really, I wouldn't say it's one of my favorite comedy movies, and it's very weird that this has a Criterion release, but still pretty cool. Alright, so next up for G, he's got his new movie coming out this year, The Friend's Dispatch. You probably know what this one is, The Grand Budapest Hotel. I've seen this movie twice now, I think. It's my favorite Wes Anderson movie. I think it's brilliant. I love the story. I love the characters. I love the way it looks. I love the score. The score is one of the best, maybe of all time, the score. I mean, well, maybe not the best of all time, but it's definitely up there. It's definitely up there. If you do like a top 50, I would include Grand Budapest score in there. Won an Oscar, I think, for it. But yeah, I mean, this cast is insane. I'm not even going to read off the people because there's so many, but you already know the cast if you've seen it. I'm sure you guys have watched it already. Wes Anderson isn't for everyone. I'm still making my way through some of his movies. I've seen most of them. I think there's a couple left that I still need to watch. He's a hit or miss for me in terms of his movies. Sometimes I really like them. Sometimes they feel meh, or I just don't really care. But Grand Budapest Hotel is definitely by far my favorite of his. Definitely most well put together. And hopefully The Friend's Dispatch can be as good, but I don't expect it to. But yeah, Grand Budapest is great. The next, I have The Graduate, starring Dustin Hoffman. One of my personal favorite movies of all time. And maybe the movie I relate to the most, which is, I don't know if that's like cool to say or just like sad. Or maybe that's just like what everyone says. I feel like I'm like in college, 22, towards the back end of my years. I feel like that's what everyone sort of says, that they relate to this movie in this time period, that like this age I'm going through, right? It's just so relatable. I mean, he just graduates and he doesn't want to do like fucking anything, which is not, like kind of like me. And and then like this MILF starts hitting on him, and it's just like when I watch as like a teen, I'm like, this is awesome. I love this movie. So I give it a 5 out of 5. I think it's great, phenomenal. My favorite movies, like I said, my favorite endings of all time with the scene and when they're on the bus and the song and everything. I just love it. So yeah, The Graduate's great. And then let's go into our next letter, H. Okay, so remember when I said the Before trilogy may be the best trilogy of all time? This one may give it a run for its money. It's The Human Condition. Not many people know about this movie, or even the people that are big into films, like if you're watching this, have really seen this one yet. And so I got the Criterion version of it. It's, I think, 9.5 hours, all 3 movies, right? It's like Human Condition Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3. It's separated into 3 parts. Each one is like 3.5 hours, 3 hours and 15 minutes long, each part. So you have to carve out a big chunk of time to watch these. I didn't watch them all in one sitting, obviously. I don't think I'd be able to do that. But The Human Condition Part 1, I think, is my favorite out of the 3. Kind of goes into like working conditions. The main character is sort of working against the system and his bosses. He wants to do the right thing in terms of working conditions for his workers. He gets transferred to like this area where he has to be like the manager of like these miners, something like that, right? And there's like some prostitutes thrown in there. I think that's this one in Part 1. And he's got like this love interest. It's just perfectly well crafted. The main character is one of the best main characters of all time, I think. Just to see his transformation through all 3 parts is absolutely insane and tragic and really well done. Part 2 I really like as well. I just don't have Part 2 and Part 3 on the same tier as Part 1. I don't know why. I just don't think the themes are strong as Part 1 was. But I think Part 2 centered more on the war, I think. I sort of get confused with Part 2 and Part 3. And then Part 3 maybe was after the war and what happens to his character, right? And I think he's on the run. I think he became I don't want to spoil it. But phenomenal movies. I would say put it up there as one of the best trilogy of all time. If I had to make a top 10 list, it would probably cut the list. One of the best main characters of all time, I think, in my opinion. And if you haven't watched it yet, highly recommend it. Like I said, 9.5 hours. But it is directed by Kobayashi, yeah, which I haven't seen too many of his films yet. I still need to watch. I think he did Ran, and all the others he has. He has so many that I haven't really delved into yet. So definitely recommend it, especially if you're into Kobayashi. Next up, for this one, if someone had to ask me, what's the best documentary, your favorite documentary of all time? I'm going to go with Hoop Dreams. If you guys have seen it, it's a very well put together sports documentary. It's kind of broken here, just how I got it. It came like that. It really pisses me off. But it's a story about how they look into these two kids, right, who they dream of becoming NBA stars. And it just documents their journey to hopefully getting to that level. I'm not going to spoil it to you if they get to that level or not. But it just shows all the hardships they have to go through as they live in this hard community. They have to balance school and sports and their family, and then stuff comes in with drugs and dead friends, and you gotta take care of your family, you gotta go to school. Like, how do you balance this? You have scouts watching you, and just to see what kind of life, how hard that is, and just to root for these kids. It makes you root for them. By the end, you're just like praying. You're like, I hope to see in the NBA. I hope their names. It's like, oh, this guy became this. And I'm not gonna spoil if you haven't seen it yet, but really well done. We just watched The Last Dance, if you guys remember that, the Jordan documentary, and I watched that on TV, and then after when this came, or I had to do a sports event where I had to choose a sports documentary, and Hoop Dreams has like an average rating of 4.3 on Letterboxd, like that, so I was like, I'll go with Hoop Dreams, because it looks interesting, and I watched it and it blew me away, and so I was riding the high from Last Dance, so I was all in sports documentaries at the time, so I'd highly recommend Hoop Dreams if you haven't seen it yet, especially if you're into basketball. Really well done documentary. Last up for H, we got a Akira Kurosawa film, High and Low. Maybe for me, everyone says Seven Samurai is the best, right? Probably is the best. But my favorite is High and Low. Super, super well done movie. It's sort of like this thriller. I don't even know how to describe it, like suspense building sort of movie. Like, it's not like Seven Samurai where it feels like an epic. This feels like a more condensed thriller. That's what I would classify as a thriller. And it's like this. It's like a ransom movie. Like he holds this kid hostage, and he asks like the friend's father for money, and so the friend's father has to decide first he thinks it's his kid that's captured, and so he's willing to pay the money to the bad guy to get his kid back. But then he finds out that it's not his kid's captured; it's this kid's friend. So now he's like this really greedy person. And he's like has to debate if he wants to give like $1 million or something to the person, right? So super interesting, intriguing concept. Really love it. Don't want to spoil anything else. Just go and watch it if you haven't seen it yet. Close to perfect movie, if not perfect. Great Kurosawa film. So next up is the letter I. And what's bad is I'm already starting to get tired, so I'm going to try and make these go by a little faster. But I think it's because with my other movies, there's not really too much to say with those other movies, where I feel like the Criterion Collection, each movie has a lot that they want to say, and I'm trying to get that across to you guys. So let's just go by a little bit faster, right? We got The Irishman, directed by Scorsese. Super long movie. I remember watching it on Netflix when it came out, and then I watched it again with my mom after that, all 3.5 hours. Really loved it. I'd probably give it like a 4.5-star movie. Just seeing Pacino back and Pesci and De Niro all in the same movie, with another great stellar cast around them too. Sebastian Maniscalco, who is very underrated comedian. I think he's super funny. He does a great job here in like the little scenes that he has. You got Ray Liotta. No, is Ray Liotta in this one? No, I don't think he is. I'm thinking of the other guy from Everybody Loves Raymond. What's his name? Ray Romano, that's it. He does great in this, and just the story and how it plays out by the end, the memorable ending. I don't mind the long runtime because the atmosphere is so great, and I love these actors, and Scorsese's my favorite directors, top 3 for me. So The Irishman is very bearable for me, and I love it a lot. And definitely a top movie of 2019, even though 2019 was such a stellar year. I'd put it at like 10, but I think it would make the top 10. So next up, the last I is Inside Llewyn Davis, starring Oscar Isaac. Oscar Isaac's best performance, I think, in my opinion. He also starred in that other show, if you've seen it, Show Me a Hero. I live close to Yonkers, New York. That Show Me a Hero show is all about Yonkers and the politics of the 80s. So watching that, it quickly became my favorite limited series. Oscar Isaac plays the mayor. I'm not going to go into too many details of my personal life, but let's just say my family's very into politics. So seeing that side, and even my uncle's name is name dropped in that show, just really cool performance. But Inside Llewyn Davis, the dude sings. He's depressed as all hell, and he does a great job portraying that. The rest of the cast is great. Maybe my second favorite Coen Brothers movie, maybe Big Lebowski's number one. But Inside Llewyn Days is such a fantastic movie. A little bit on the boring side if you're not into that. But it definitely blew me away, especially when it's like it's late at night. That's how I watched it. You turn all the lights off, and you have Inside Llewyn Davis on. It just become kind of immersed into it. Like at least I did. And Adam Driver's in it. Timberlake is thrown in there. I think Carey Mulligan, is that her name? She's also in it. No, is it Carey Mulligan? It is Carey Mulligan. Good for me. Okay. So Inside Llewyn Davis is great. Next up for L, we have Les Samurai. I haven't watched this yet. I picked it up on Criterion during one of its sales because it's been on my watch list and I need to watch it. But because I haven't watched it yet, there's not really much I can say, so I'll leave it at that. If you've seen it yet, please let me know how it is. I know it's a great movie, so I'm sure I'm going to like it. And then the last L is one that I haven't seen yet either. You guys may be shocked by this. La Haine, hailed as one of the best movies of all time, right? And it's just one of those movies where it's like I know it's going to affect me deeply and I'm going to really, really love it. So I need to dedicate a portion of my time to watch it. And like I know I'm going to probably like change after it. Or not change, but like really love it. And with those movies like La Haine, Paris, Texas, like I'm just like waiting to watch it because I realize as I watch a lot of movies now, you kind of take for granted those first time watches of some of the best. Like 2001 A Space Odyssey. I mean, you watch it now and you can still love it and still appreciate it, but that first time watch is really nothing like it. And so I know I like to have in the back of my mind that there are experiences out there left for me, like La Haine, like Paris, Texas, like a bunch of others. And there could be like a few surprises where I'm blown away and I feel, crazy good about first time watch. It happens all the time. But I know with like La Haine, I'm going to feel that way. And I just like to think that that experience is still out there waiting for me. Where meanwhile, if I was just like, I'm going to watch it tonight. It's like you watch it and it's over. You felt what you felt. And then, a couple days from now, it's gone. I don't know. Is that weird? You guys get what I'm trying to say? But let's get into the next letter. All right. Next up is the letter M. So first up, we have Andrei Tarkovsky's Mirror. I haven't watched one yet. It's on my weekly watch just to watch it this week. But I made that list like last month. And for October, I've just been watching horror movies. And Mirror, it has a 4.3 average rating, right? I know it's really good. Tarkovsky in general is, he's Tarkovsky, right? I remember last year when I first got into the Instagram film community, Tarkovsky's name was thrown everywhere. Everyone was watching Tarkovsky. Everyone was watching Stalker for the first time, Mirror, Solaris. Now I think a lot of people have seen Tarkovsky films, just because if you want to get into like cinema, he's one of the first names that sort of pop up in terms of like foreign cinema. So I've seen Stalker. I've seen Ivan's Childhood. I've seen Solaris. And I've seen... What's the other one I've seen? I can't think of it. I think there's one more I've seen. But next up is Mirror. I want to go into chronological order with him. So Mirror's next up for that. Solaris I liked. Tarkovsky's not... I don't know. See, like, it's another time where I watched Stalker at a time where I was not big into, like, the cinema. So Stalker I didn't really like. But if I watch it now, I probably love it. So I don't know what to say. Ivan's Childhood I thought was really good for his first movie. I thought it was great. Phenomenal movie. Solaris I also really enjoyed. A little bit on the boring side for me. But you need to watch Tarkovsky with a different lens. And I need to realize that. Like, you got to watch it with a different... You got to dissect it. You got to watch it and each scene is trying to say something. So hopefully with Mirror, I go into it with that mindset and I love it. It's a big, bulky set. So I'm excited to read whatever booklet is in here after I watch it. I love doing that. But yeah, I haven't seen it yet, so I can't say too much. One I can talk about is Memories of Murder by Bong Joon-ho. People say this is his best film. I still think Parasite's his best film. Memories of Murder, though, man. Oh, my God. One of the best murder mysteries of all time. Phenomenal performances by the main character. How it all plays out is really good. The fact that this is his second feature film is insane. And the fact also that this is 2003 movie and Bong Joon-ho only really got... big until Parasite is just sort of upsetting. But also in 2003 and after that, I was still a kid, so I'm sure I wouldn't have heard Bong Joon-ho as a kid. But yeah, Memories of Murder, I think it's the second best movie. Really love it. It's based on a true story, which is really cool. And the booklet has some good information on like the making of the movie and how it was kind of hard for him to make the movie and then get it distributed because of it's based on a true story. But really good. Love the cover. Look how sick the cover is. The hand there. So if you haven't watched it yet, definitely go watch it. Next up for M, the last M, we have Marriage Story, one of the best 2019 movies. I would say this is a top... I don't know if I'd say top 5. Definitely top 10 though for 2019. Directed by, what's that dude's name? Uh, what's his name? Noah Baumbach, right? I didn't want to look for it because I knew it. Uh, Scarlett Johansson, probably the best performance I've seen from her. Adam Driver, the best performance I've seen from him. I was rooting for him to win the Oscar, but I'm also a big DC fan and a big Joaquin Phoenix fan, so I did think Joaquin was going to get it, and as you saw, he swept the whole Oscars and awards ceremony. But Marriage Story is such a really, really great movie, and especially coming from like divorced parents and watching it, just hits on a different level for me, and I really do love it. It's sort of a hard movie to go back and want to rewatch, but I will be rewatching it soon, I think, because I do want to. And I think this is Netflix's first Criterion Collection movie that came out, which is really cool for Netflix. Good for them. But then last up, we have 1N, which is horror themed. We got Night of the Living Dead, the first zombie movie, right? Still holds up today. It really still holds up today. I watched this last year for my Halloween marathon, and it blew me away. I loved it. I watched Dawn of the Dead after. Equally enjoyed Dawn of the Dead as much as Night of the Living Dead. But the black and white atmosphere, and just seeing how far we've come since this movie, and how much inspiration we still get from this movie, is really cool to see. And it, like I said, still holds up. That's the most important thing. George A. Romero is an icon. He's one of the best horror directors of all time, and you see it in this movie. So let's go on. All right, so next up we have I think we have 1-0. We have On the Waterfront starring Marlon Brando. So I watched this for film class my freshman year of college. And what sucks is that my view was broken up, so I can't really say my opinion on the movie. I think I missed like one class while they were watching the movie. So I started it, missed the class, and then I came back and I finished the movie. So there's like a whole big middle chunk where I missed, so I need to watch it again. Probably one of the coolest looking Criterion Collection, just the way it comes in the packaging, just the way it looks. It comes with this really cool booklet. I think it's supposed to be really good. And the disc artwork is great. Just the overall artwork for this whole thing is really, really well done. But yeah, I mean, Marlon Brando kills it from what I've seen. That iconic line he says, where I hope I don't forget it right now. He's like, I could have been somebody, or whatever he says, right? He's like, but I'm a, what do you say? I'm a sucker? No. He's like, but I'm a bum. It's so good. So good. So yeah, I need to watch it again, though. Definitely. So next up for P, I'm going to kick myself because of the amount of P's and my opinions on these. So number one is Porsche of Lady in Fire. Okay. Right away. I watched this same Tree of Life time. I swear to God. I watched like this movie first and I watched Tree of Life. So my perception was like I'm like an idiot back then. I watched this and I thought it was so boring. I you know what I watched it on? I'm going to be honest with you guys. I pirated the movie on my Fire Stick. And so I watched it illegally. But, like, bad quality for one. It was just not a good environment for me to watch it in, so I did this movie an injustice by watching it like that. It was just like, I just started my Instagram page, and I wanted to watch new movies, because that was like new hotness, right? So you wanted to watch new movies so that your post would go out more, because people were talking about it. So it was like Porsche Lady just came out, but I didn't want to go to the theaters, but there was a stream of it online, so I was like, okay, I'm going to watch and review it. So I watched, I gave like a two stars out of 5, and I need to watch it again because I'm a dummy. I need to watch it again. I'm gonna love it. I already know I'm gonna love it next time I watch it. It'll probably end up being a perfect movie for me, or at least I hope so. But I really do think so. I'm gonna force myself to like it that much. Next up, a movie that I did actually enjoy, Persona, which is coming. I think this was one of the first movies that really changed my perception. And I really credit Ingmar Bergman for that, because I remember I watched Persona, and I looked at my list, and I was like, oh, I have to watch Seven Seal next, right? And I watched Seven Seal, and it was like, I loved both those movies so much that I sat back, and I was like, there's movies out there that aren't really what I've been watching for like my whole life, that are good, if not better than the best movies I've seen. I don't even know how to describe, like, as you grow up and you're not into the Criterion Collection movies yet, you watch some good movies. You're shown like the popular ones, like Dark Knight, Saving Private Ryan. You've seen Godfather. You watch Shawshank, and those are like the best movies of all time. Which for me they still are. If someone asked me that, I still credit those as some of the best of all time. Most like highly acclaimed, credited, like works of art. Like this is what I'm trying to say. I never looked at movies as works of art until I watched Persona and Seventh Seal, and it was Ingmar Bergman that really changed that perception for me. Persona, I mean, look at the freaking cover of this, and then the back is gonna be her facing that way, right? Is the famous shot. Look at that, both of them there. I just really love the story of this. Unlike Tarkovsky, I think Bergman has a better balance of story and like cinematography and the way his films are made. The story of this is really cool. Like Tarkovsky will just kind of throw you in there, you know, and it's more philosophical. Where Bergman at least has some sort of story and better characters, I think. So it's like this lesbian relationship on a deserted island, and it's just really cool. I love Persona. I need to watch it again. Probably I don't know. It's hard to rank Bergman. It really is. Like Scenes from Marriage, I talked about this once in one of my videos, is really super good. Seven Seals may be my favorite. I just love the themes of death in that, and we'll get to that one soon. I have it. But Persona's probably second or third. I don't know. Scenes from Marriage is really good too. But if you think Persona is number one, I don't blame you. It's super, super good. Next up, one I haven't seen yet, like I said earlier, Paris, Texas. Another one, like I already sort of talked about it with Lahane. It's like a movie that I know is going to be an experience I'm really going to love, so I'm just sort of saving it for a good time. Or maybe when I need it. You know, sometimes you need a movie to remind you how great life is, or just how great the experience of watching a movie is. And so I save Lahane and Paris, Texas for those times when I need it. And next was Parasite. Like I said earlier in one of my other videos, I probably own, out of all the movies I have double copies of, Parasite I have like 4. I'm pretty sure I already talked about Parasite for my 4K collection video because I have a 4K version of it. So I'm not going to talk about it too much, and you guys will actually hear me talk about it again in my Steelbook video because I have a Steelbook of it. So let's go into the next letter. So now we have the R's, which both my R's I haven't seen yet, so it's going to go by really quick. First one was Wes Anderson's Rushmore. Been on my list for a while. I don't know if you guys can see that well. But I mean, I hope I like it. Like I said, though, Wes Anderson's a hit or miss for me. So I just don't know. And I haven't seen it yet, so I can't talk about it. And then this other one is Akira Kurosawa's Rashomon. Another one where I know I'm going to really like it because I do love Kurosawa a lot, his films. So I'm just saving it for a good time. And I just haven't gotten around to it yet. So I'm really looking forward to that one. So let's go into S now. I think all these S's I've seen. Yes, I have. Okay, so first up, Tarkovsky. Again, Stalker. Sort of discussed this, how I watched it at a bad time, so I was sort of bored. Need to watch it again. The ending is sort of crazy. I don't even know what the hell that ending was. I'm not going to spoil it, but I was just like... I saw the ending and I was like, what kind of... what is he trying to say? Like, what is this? It's like X-Men. But, I mean... And you know what's also really... Okay, slight spoilers for Stalker. Skip this section if you don't want to talk about it. The whole movie we're talking about this room, this imaginary room, it's like your deepest, darkest wishes, or like you get your biggest wish when you go into the room. It's like it has all your desires, right? So I'm like, I can't wait to see the scene of when they get into the room. It's gonna be like this crazy thing, and they get into the room and they don't even like show us like what the hell is even like in there. And then they just leave, and then the movie ends with like a girl like moving a cup, and I'm just like, I don't know. Like looking back on it, I didn't like it. Watching it now, maybe I can look at it through a different lens. If I just look up some of the meanings and try to look at it through that perspective, I could like it more. But right now, I just don't enjoy it, I don't think. A movie I freaking love, The Silence of the Lambs. I watched this year, and it blew me away all over again. I've seen it before, a couple of times. But for this recent rewatch, it was one of those times where you just sort of forget how good a movie is, and then you watch it, and you're just like, oh my god. And like, this cover is really sick. And just the amount of like things you forget, like one, Hopkins' performance, he's barely in the freaking movie, and he puts on one of the most hypnotic and best performances of all time. That's just a credit to Hopkins, how he's one of the best actors today, top 5 maybe of all time, seriously. And Jodie Foster, such a great character. I forgot how great that character is. The themes of her, like a woman in the police force, and how she just cracks this whole thing, takes down the biggest serial killer in like the world. Just a really cool character development for her. The ending with the goggles, the night, what's the word I'm looking for? The nightshade goggles? No, what are they called? Night vision. The night vision goggles scene where she's like scared and she's looking around. So well put together. Maybe the most suspenseful scene in a movie I've ever seen. Seriously. So really love it. Super great. Love Silence of the Lambs now. It really bumped up my list for greatest of all time for this recent rewatch. Next up, Seven Samurai. The Criterion of this set is like beautiful. Just the all black and then into the gray. Oh my god, I forgot that this was the cover of of it. Probably the best looking scene in the movie where the rain's coming down. Again, I watched this in the transition time for me. I think I watched it around the same time as Come and See. I watched Seven Samurai and Come and See. So I took for granted those first time watches. Seriously, I watched them during COVID. But still, I just wasn't at a time where I was now where I could fully appreciate it. So I don't have it as a 5 out of 5. I do think it deserves it. I do think it's the best Kurosawa film just by the way it looks and everything. Just the ending and the characters and the pacing. It's just really well done. And I wish I could have watched it through his lens for that first time watch, you know? But now when I rewatch, I could maybe appreciate it even more. So I definitely need to rewatch it since my perception of it isn't as good as I want it to be. Seventh Seal, man. Seventh Seal. I love Seventh Seal. Just like the imagery of like playing chess with death is so cool. And it feels like something like a concept that like I would sort of want to make or come up with. Because I think the themes of death are really super cool. Or maybe not cool, but like, it's just sort of like this tragic, relatable human thing, right? And I just always love when movies revolve around that. Especially these Criterion Bergman film. I mean, Bergman was my favorite director, I think, to come out of this Criterion Collection journey I've been on for the last 2 or 3 years. And Seventh Seal just affected me in a way to where, you know what it was? I was watching it during the pandemic, and there's a pandemic going on in this movie. So stuff came off like relatable to me. And plus with the death stuff, it was just really super cool. And it is my favorite Bergman film. And that's it. Let's go into the next letter. Alright, so now we're getting towards the end. We have T, and then we have W, V, and that's it, right? So for T, I only have one T, but it's 3 of them. It's the Three Colors trilogy. Haven't seen these yet. I just added Three Colors Red to my, like, what I need to watch soon list. But this is what it looks like. This is the booklet. Has a director on there, Krzysztof Kieslowski. That sounded good. I think I just pronounced that right. So Three Colors Red, which I heard is the best, so I'm really excited to watch that. We have Three Colors White, which is starring my girl who's in the Before trilogy. What's her name? I forgot. And then we have Three Colors Blue. So I have no idea what's in store for me with these movies. I haven't even begun to look into what the movies are about. I sort of don't want to know. I just want to put it on and watch it. Hopefully really enjoy it. Also hailed as one of the best trilogies of all time. So I hope I look at it throughout, like that as well. But, another one where I haven't seen yet. So I can't comment too much on them, right? So let's go into the next letter. So next up, another Bergman film. We have Wild Strawberries. Really love this one too. I rate it sort of close to Persona. I think Persona is maybe a little bit better. But just seeing like this old man, this really old man who sort of like reminisces on his past lives, or not his past lives, his past life through dreams and stuff and memories is really cool. Really well directed. I think this was his second movie, Bergman, which is crazy. I'm pretty sure it's his second. And it just kind of shows like just how depressed Bergman was, right? I mean, supposedly the main character is sort of like a representation of Bergman in a way, right? He was just coming off a couple of divorces, maybe his second divorce. And this sort of plays into like divorce and kids and, past lovers he had and stuff like that. So really well done. I would probably put it, I've loved, I think, every single Bergman film I've seen, which is why I can't really say that for other directors like Tarkovsky or someone else. So that's why I really love Bergman. I hold him in like this higher tier than others. But Wild Strawberries is great. I know some people hail it as Bergman's best film. I don't see it like that. I probably actually have it towards the lower half of his filmography if I was ranking it. But there's so many Bergman films out there, and I haven't really seen a lot of his. So in the grand scheme of things, it is one of his best. I would just probably put it like above Fanny and Alexander, but below like Persona and stuff, right? So next up we have War of the Worlds from 1950. I watched this one first, and then I watched Steven Spielberg's version. Spielberg's version is obviously like more my thing, so I like that one a little bit more. But War of the Worlds is really good. For a sci-fi film in the 50s, the practical effects were really cool. I think this is an H.P. Lovecraft film or story. Oh, no, it's not. I don't think it's H.P. Lovecraft. But it does feel like H.P. Lovecraft at times. I thought it was. Maybe not. But, it's like this typical alien invasion, but in the 50s, this is new. And I can't imagine being like a drive-in in the 50s and watching this. Must have been super cool, because I had never really seen a movie like this, before this time before. It was just a really well put together movie. Cool, like, religious things happening at the end with the church and stuff. And I ended up liking it. I enjoyed it. Probably like a 3-star out of 5 movie. Nothing crazy good. But for 1950s sci-fi, really well done. Next up, I love this movie. Videodrome by David Cronenberg. Cronenberg has become one of my favorite horror directors of all time. Maybe I put Carpenter above him in terms of horror. Just The Fly, Scanners, Videodrome. What's the other one I'm thinking of that's big? Well, I'm about to watch Dead Ringers soon, this October. There's one more missing, but whatever. Videodrome, completely immersed, completely engaged. I was. The story was insane. No, that's not Bacon. It's James Woods. He kills it. He does so good. The line, what is it? Welcome to the new flesh, or say hello to the new flesh, or all hail the new flesh. That's what it is, right? Super, super cool. Love the concept, the story. The practical effects are insane. This was actually my first Cronenberg film. So I watched The Fly after. I think that's why I watched The Fly a little bit less, because I was holding it up to the standards of Videodrome. I think Videodrome's better. I think Videodrome's better than The Fly. I hate that The Fly is like better known than Videodrome, but I think it's just because the practical makeups on Jeff Goldblum's really insane. But Videodrome, man, underappreciated. Everyone needs to watch Videodrome. Seriously, I love it. Super cool. Maybe a little bit on the boring side for some people, but not for me. And like I said, it made Cronenberg one of the best of all time for me. All right, so before you go, I actually want to save this one for last. It's a W movie, not really. I mean, it's a W. It's the director, right? So this is the World of Wong Kar-wai set, one of the most like sought-after Criterion collections. I happened to get it, I think, for Christmas or for my birthday. This thing is insane. I don't really know if I want to open it up for you guys because it's sort of a hassle. All right, I'll open it up for you. It's like this weird packaging to where it's like paper, but it's like really cool. It's sort of like a Wong Kar-wai style. But oh shit. Okay, so ready? So it opens up like this. And it comes with this cool booklet, this huge booklet. Even though it doesn't really have that much information, it's just like really big. And Wong Kar-wai, I watched most of these. I still haven't seen 2046 and his two others that aren't as well highly acclaimed, like the Blueberries one or whatever it's called. So like this is from, I think, As Tears Go By. I think that's this one. And then we have In the Mood for Love. And if you open it up, it's like this. It's like this, right? So you have As Tears Goes By, which is first one, which I liked a lot. Also starring Maggie Chung, who's super cool. Days of Being Wild, which was a little bit worse, but still good. Then you have Chungking Express, which is personally my favorite of Wong Kar-wai. It's not In the Mood for Love. It's Chungking Express. California Dreamin'. I love it. Then we got... Oh my, yo, this is what I'm saying. Look how big this thing is. Look at this. I can't even show you the whole thing. Then we have Happy Together, which is his like gay film, which was good. It was a good movie. And then In the Mood for Love, which is phenomenal, really great. And then at the end is 2046, which I haven't watched it. I don't know why I didn't like just stop whatever I was doing and watch 2046. I was so close to ending his filmography, but I just haven't gotten around to it yet. So I need to do that. But Wong Kar-wai, he's really good. I mean, I'm sure you know he's. In the Mood for Love is his most famous piece of work. But Chungking Express, I really loved. And look at how I have to put this in. Like, it's got to, like, go in here, and I can't even show it to you guys. I have to use two hands. But really cool set. I wanted to show that to you guys. And I have one more thing here that isn't Criterion. It's actually easier to put together than I remembered. It's this cool thing I forgot to show you guys for my 4K collection. It's nothing crazy. It's just the Midsommar director's cut from A24, like the first 4K thing they put out. Really cool material. I love Midsommar. What's funny is that, and why I know my perception on some movies will change from what I've said, you know how I've been talking about how I want to rewatch them, is because Midsommar was a movie that I didn't like at first. I had the same perception. I thought it was super boring. It wasn't scary, I said it was like sort of like just boring. And then I watched it again, and I freaking loved it. I fell in love with it. I thought it was so good. I probably watched like 4 times again since then, and each time it gets better and better for me. It's honestly keeps inching closer to a 5 out of 5. It comes with a lot to say. Well, first, this booklet's really cool. It comes with a Martin Scorsese excerpt that he talks about the movie, and he talks about Ari Aster and how he didn't really think he could top Hereditary, and then he sort of did, which I believe. I like Midsommar better than Hereditary, but Hereditary is really good too. Then it comes with some of the haunted imagery from like The Cult, some really weird stuff, like these weird images, people like having sex at the end, right? But just a really cool like set to have. But that's it, guys. If you stuck around for this long, Thank you so much. I love making these videos for you guys. And maybe video later on Chucky episode 2 if you guys are into that. But let me know what your thoughts on these Criterion movies are. Let me know how you guys liking these videos. And that's it. Have a great rest of the day like always. And I'll see you all in the next video.